Pecos Bill was born in 1845 in the great state of Texas to a family of cowboys. When he was still a baby, his family decided to move out of their town because it was becoming too crowded due to all the people moving into the state after its newly adopted statehood. Now, you need to understand, too crowded for Bill's family was 50 miles away was the next person. They liked their space. While his family was moving out, they crossed over the Pecos River in a covered wagon. Bill, however, fell out of the wagon and nobody seemed to notice. He floated downstream until he hit a bend in the river. Now, most babies wouldn't be able to survive the night. Most babies wouldn't be able to survive falling out of the wagon. But Pecos Bill was no normal baby, and he was then taken in by a pack of coyotes. He was then raised by the wild pack of dogs until he was a young man. One day, while herding his cattle, Pecos Bill's older brother noticed Pecos Bill and a group of coyotes running through the plains. His brother called out to him, asking him what he was. Pecos Bill responded he was a varmint, but his brother told him that he wasn't. Pecos Bill responded, "But I have fleas," to which his brother told him, "Lots of people have fleas. You're supposed to be a cowboy." His brother said, "But I got a tail." Bill's brother said, "No, you don't. You're a cowboy." Well, Bill tried to look behind himself and didn't see a tail. So he then said, "Okay, I'm a cowboy." And he said goodbye to his coyote family and went with his brother to become one. Later in his life, Pecos Bill worked as a cowboy for many, many years until he finally began to feel the hunger for adventure. One day, he was sitting in the town square minding his own business, and he heard some of the locals talking about the Hell's Gate Gang, a group of the roughest, meanest men in all of Texas that had been stealing from caravans and people's cattle. So Bill decided to stop these dastardly villains by going to their hideout and to break up their gang. As he was traveling across the dangerous plains of Texas, Pecos Bill's horse was injured by stepping in a hole. So Pecos Bill did the only thing he knew what to do. He picked up his horse and carried him for over 100 miles before coming across a rattlesnake that was over 50 feet long. The snake told Pecos Bill that his name was Shake and that Pecos Bill was not allowed to pass. So the two tussled, and Pecos Bill beat Shake into submission. After they fought with each other, the two realized how silly it was to fight, and they became quick friends. Shake agreed to be Pecos Bill's lasso. As the three continued to travel, Shake wrapped around Pecos Bill's arm, and he carried his horse under his other arm. They continued to travel until they found a giant mountain lion. The mountain lion snarled and attacked, but both Pecos Bill and Shake defeated the lion together and domesticated it. Pecos Bill took the saddle off of his horse, placed it on the mountain lion, and then slung his injured horse onto its back and rode to the gang's hideout. When he got there, he demanded to know who the boss was, but the current leader of the gang was so scared of Pecos Bill and the animals with him that he shakily told Pecos Bill that he was the new leader of the gang. So, Pecos Bill, with his new posse, went back to town and started the biggest cattle ranch in all of the Southwest. For years, Pecos Bill and his ranchers ran the biggest and best cattle ranch, and he taught all Texans he met the proper way to be a cowboy if they asked him to. However, as time went on, a bad drought began to threaten his ranch and his cattle. In fact, all of Texas was at risk of drying up because of how bad it was. During this drought, Pecos Bill saw a thunderstorm that was producing a tornado. So, with the help of Shake, Pecos Bill lassoed the tornado and rode it all over Texas, squeezing all of the water out of the storm to save everyone. He rode this tornado for so long that when it was finally over, he was bucked all the way to California. When he landed, it created a giant hole in the state. That hole is what we now call Death Valley. But when the crash happened, a horse as black as midnight ran up on Pecos Bill. The two stared at each other intently until finally the horse bowed to Pecos Bill and allowed Pecos Bill to put a saddle on him. Pecos Bill rode the horse all the way back to his ranch in Texas over a 2-day trip. When he got back, one of his ranchers tried to ride the horse, but was bucked off so hard that he wound up in another state. So, Pecos Bill called the new horse Widowmaker, because he kind of assumed that's what happened, and the two became best friends. Widowmaker and Pecos Bill, later on in life, were riding by the Rio Grande River, when he saw a beautiful, wild red-haired woman riding a catfish down the river, and he fell in love with her at first sight. He decided that he wanted to speak with her, so he rowed as fast and as hard as he could to catch up with her. But she was so fast on the river that it was hard to keep up, even on Widowmaker's back. Bill became enamored with how good she was at riding the catfish and how fast she was able to ride, and he determined that he needed to marry her. So he yelled out to her, "Will you marry me?" And she yelled back playfully, "You don't even know my name." To which he yelled out, "My name is Pecos Bill, what's yours?" And she said, "Slewfoot Sue." The two raced for 4 days straight before she finally accepted his proposal for marriage. But on their wedding day, Pecos Bill wore a buckskin suit and Sue wore a nice white dress with a steel spring bustle. Now in Texas, everything is better when it's bigger. So she had the largest steel spring bustle ever made. After the two were wed, Slewfoot Sue got a bad idea. She wanted to ride Widowmaker. Bill begged her and pleaded her not to even try it, but once Slewfoot Sue had her mind made up, that was what was going to happen. So, before Bill could stop her, she jumped on the back of the wild stallion, while hooting and hollering. Widowmaker kicked and bucked hard, sending Slewfoot Sue high into the air. Pecos Bill used Shake quickly to try and catch her and bring her back down, but when she came back, she landed on Widowmaker, and the spring in her bustle and the kick of his horse sent them both up into space. Pecos Bill trailing behind her, and Slewfoot Sue laughing all the way. The two landed on the moon and started a family there. To this day, when you hear rumbling thunder over the plains of Texas, that would be Pecos Bill, Slewfoot Sue, and their family laughing up a storm and having a good time. Now, the story of Pecos Bill was originally created to talk to new Texans and new cowboys about what was going on in the area. There's a lot of things that Pecos Bill apparently created, and a lot of things that he did to go ahead and explain how life worked. According to ranchers, he was the one who came up with branding. Some people claim that he was the one who came up with scorpions and tarantulas just as a practical joke, but those still plagued cowboys even later on in life. The story of Pecos Bill was a long one, and it's one of America's kind of funniest folklores. Now, this is going to be the end of our Folklore Friday for this week. If you've got any recommendations, please let me know. If you want to hear some stories from a certain area, let me know down below. Make sure that you hit the like and subscribe button. I think that's what YouTubers are supposed to say. Ring a bell. I don't know if it's one on YouTube or one in your house. I have no idea. I'm still new to this. But if you've got anything to let me know, let me know. If not, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.